Hello and welcome to the Morning Market Call. My name is Tim Hart. I'm your host today. Joining me is Christopher Calder from our undergraduate business program. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Earlier this week we talked to a classmate of yours, Dallin Bills, about the B of the BRICS, Brazil. Today we're talking about C of BRIC, which has no K, by the way.
Right.
So China today, specifically we're going to talk about private wealth management in China. China is returning to its rightful place, according to them, as the Middle Kingdom. A lot of wealth accumulation is happening there. But I guess first, just to kind of lay the framework for us, give us a brief overview of the China economy.
Okay, well, China is it's an economic powerhouse. This last year, actually for 2009, HBSC has projected an 8% GDP growth, which is just way out of America's range, even in a boom. So they have this huge amount of industrialization that's kind of fueling this growing middle class. And it's creating a lot of wealth for a lot of people.
Okay. And who are the players in the wealth management arena in China?
All of the major banks have gone into China. You have Deutsche Bank went in 2007. Citi went in 2006. A couple of them have actually done joint ventures with Chinese banks. We have Credit Suisse and RBS coupled with Bank of China.
Okay. And in terms of just ways that it might be different than private wealth management in the United States culturally, what are some of those factors you need to keep in mind?
Well, private wealth management in the United States is typically it's an industry characterized by close client-manager relationships, kind of a long-term relationship. In China, if anything, it's more so. It's exaggerated, and so what happens is, typically in Asia, business relationships, they take a long time to develop. And they have a genesis in personal relationships, which is kind of taboo in the West. And so finding a client, if you're in private wealth management, is going to take more time. You're going to have a longer relationship. And something interesting about China is that most of their high net worth individuals, which are people with more than $1 million in liquid assets, 70% of those people are entrepreneurs. 70% of those people are entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
They're self-starters. They're engaged, and I think in China, more than in the United States, these high net worth individuals are going to want to have a hands-on approach to managing their wealth rather than just giving it to someone else.
Okay, now here's a question that I didn't prep you with, so I'm catching you off guard to see how you do. The Chinese in general as a culture have a much higher savings rate than in the United States.
Sure.
And I would anticipate a different risk-return profile or expectation about risk and return.
Yeah.
Did any of that come up in anything that you were reading? Can you speak to that at all?
Given China's just tremendous amount of GDP growth, I'd expect that the Chinese investor is not quite as risk averse as an American investor and would probably demand a higher return than their American counterpart.
Perhaps just because they're used to an 8% domestic GDP growth.
Sure.
Fair enough. Now, this is another one I didn't ask you about, but are you familiar with particularist versus universalist concepts?
I'm not.
Okay. Then maybe we'll just leave it there. Because China, I would think, would be a particularist culture where there's a high degree of loyalty to clan, tribe, family. And that's going to influence the way you do your marketing, as opposed to a universalist culture that might look for an advisor outside of a clan who has some universal signal of expertise.
Right. Okay,
They're going to look for a family or a clan.
China
Does that seem accurate?
Yeah. It's a lot of Eastern cultures are very collectivist, which is probably what you meant by. And so I don't think if I were to go in and try and find clients for private wealth management, I don't think I'd be touting myself as the unique niche manager like you would in the States. Another thing in Chinese culture, there's the concept of keiki. I'm sure I pronounced that wrong, but it's that you don't ever brag about your personal achievements. They stress modesty, and in the States, if you want to go out and manage someone's worth, you want to be able to brag about your achievements and show them that you can really perform. And in China, I don't think that's really a strategy that's going to work.
Okay. Excellent. Well, Christopher, I appreciate your time and
thanks
talking to us about China. And thanks to all of you for joining us on the Morning Market Call.
Morning Market Call is a production of the Marriott School of Business at Brigham Young University and is made possible by generous donations from Larry Kashjan and Gary Williams. This webcast was produced by Greg Lee, Tim Hart, Julie Kellett, and Jonathan Marucci.